We would not have been here today if it had not been for Catherine O'Neill. We are here because of her vision. Catherine, she has left this earth, but I believe somewhere she will be so happy for this event and for our 25 years. She wanted to raise visibility of women and children refugees and do it by engaging professional women with knowledge and experience. We were together on the board of IRC, but every day when I came home, she would phone me, Liv, I have an idea, I have an idea. I got so tired of these phone calls, but I had to take it. And she said, Liv, you know there are laws and they are considering treatment for refugees, but they are written by men and for men. And Liv, we have to do something. And Liv, we have to travel at places where men have gone before. We need to have women going there. And then one day, and that is really how Women's Commission started, we went to Hong Kong, and there's one woman here today, Dawn. The three of us and a couple of more, we went to Hong Kong to do research. In the December 31, 1989 edition of the Sunday Standard, a Hong Kong daily, Kevin Sinclair, one of Hong Kong's most famous journalists, describes Vietnam's refugees as thugs and human vermin 25 years ago. Such statements could be dismissed as uninformed, racist, and only descriptive of the writer himself if the situation had not been such that Mr. Sinclair was one of the very few selected journalists allowed inside any of the closed camps for refugees in Hong Kong. We were a small group of women, and we were actually allowed to enter the camps. Obviously, we looked harmless, and we were only women, and none of us were very sophisticated, and we had our little notebooks. And this is what we found. Barbed, wired cities, thousands upon thousands of terrified people, men, women and children, crammed on top of each other, stacked together on shelves often 3 levels high. Normally, 4 or more people, depending on the size of the family, were assigned a shelf with about 3.5 feet of headroom. People stacked like spoons in a drawer. This is home for men, women, and children, and they are invited to store not only themselves, but their possessions. From now on, this is where they will eat and sleep and make love and study and wonder about the future. When they first arrive, they are forced to attend their interview from a squatting position with their interrogator standing over them. The act of dehumanization has started. Mirrors are taken away. They could be turned into weapons. Children will grow up with no knowledge of their own face or eyes or expression, their feeling of self. Yes, it is easy after a while to convince people living like this that they no longer have the right to a name and an identity. In fact, it is easy to suggest that they no longer have any human worth. So many of the refugees were women and children, but they had not talked before. They were afraid to talk to male visitors, though suddenly they were more than willing to open up to us, the foreign women. Do you know? she said, that my family receives only 1 toilet roll every month, and then I get less than 10 sanitary napkins a month. If I need more, I must prove it by showing the last one. To be deprived is to have no choice at all, and to remember what life used to be. You must not give birth here, they told us. At least a month before the birth date, we are sent to a prison 2 hours away. We are not listed there with a name, but with a number. The children will have the same number. Sometimes babies are lost from their mothers. They can't find the fitting number. A few weeks ago, a woman made a mistake of coming into early labor. They hurriedly helped me onto a trolley, and they strapped my 2 legs tightly together because my child's body was already half out. They did not release my legs until I got to the delivery room, but my child was no longer alive. It died from suffocation. My husband said, "Our family has lost a child so painfully." Sir David Frost, Chief Secretary and at the time of our visit, acting governor of Hong Kong, he was kind enough to meet us, and we presented our concerns to him. That they, the refugees, should have a normal family life is a difficult concept to accept for me, he said. And we made notes in our books. "Please do not forget us," the refugee women whispered. "Please don't forget us." And we made notes in our books. Oh yes, suddenly a life will thrust itself through a veil of organized dehumanization. That life will show itself and maybe reach a hardened heart with recognition. I went on a journey and I came back awakened, a journey of discoveries. And it was of discoveries. I met a little boy, a thin body pressed close to mine. Sometimes I cry, but only when it rains, so the other children will not see it. I stop in front of an old woman lying in a fetal position on a blanket. She had leprosy. I'm afraid to touch her, as most people around her. But then, her thin, sorrowful moans, she was crying like a little baby, and I forced myself really to bow down and hold around her. And the moment I held her, she stopped her crying, and that little sound came like a baby does when the baby is comforted. And there, in the nape of her neck, I smelled my grandmother. The women I traveled with, we had a press conference in Hong Kong for a packed room of journalists. It became a scandal. These stories were not to be told. And then the authorities threw us out of the country. We were so proud. And when we came back to United States, we founded what is today Women's Refugee Commission. And the first big meeting we had with lots of people was at the home of Vera Blinken, who is here tonight. and Susan Alberti, who's also here tonight, we made a kind of office in Boston because that's where we lived, and we wanted to continue this vision and this travel that belonged to Catherine O'Neill. We have changed laws, new laws with insight that 80% of fleeing human beings, uprooted from their homes by no choice of their own, with no weapons in their hands, are, in fact, women and children. We, the women travelers, raised issues that had not been addressed before. The dignity of each human life is unique. The very survival of a sane and civilized mankind depends on our understanding of this and doing something about it now. Thank you.